State, are you ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
Defense, are you ready?
Ready.
Deputy Money, would you please call in the panel? Let the record reflect that the court is back in session and cause number M327556. Case is styled the state of Texas versus Kimberly Michelle Borton. Let the record reflect that Kimberly Michelle Borton is present in court with her attorney, Attorney Wright Kimler. Let the record also reflect that the state is present with Assistant District Attorneys, Attorney Kobe Hoffbauer and Attorney Andrew Hubel. Let the record also reflect that the jury panel is now present in the courtroom. State, are you ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Defense, are you ready to proceed?
Ready.
Ladies and gentlemen, when I call your name, please walk to the front of the jury box and the bailiff will hand you a name tag. And then please have a seat in the jury box. He will tell you where you need to sit. Sarah Fleming. Peggy Williams. Charles Clifton. Tina Crenning. Robert Stiles. Adelaide Velez. And Gwendolyn Young. Now, members of the jury, I must administer to you the second oath. I need each and every one of you to raise your right hand. And after I administer the oath to each and every one of you, please say, I do. Do you and each of you do solemnly swear or affirm that in the case of the state of Texas versus Kimberly Michelle Barton, that you will a true verdict render according to the law and the evidence, so help you God? Okay, you may put your hand down. Members of the jury, I will give you some instructions and a general idea of what to expect in this case. Every case is composed of facts and the law as it applies to the particular case. Facts come from the witnesses on the witness stand. The law comes from the statutes, codes, rules, and court decisions interpreting them and how they may apply to this case. You and I have equal authority in this case, but it is divided authority. You are the sole judges of the facts, and I am the sole judge of the law. You are the sole judges of the credibility of witnesses and the weight to be given their testimony. You may believe all of what a witness says, part of what a witness says, or none of what a witness says. As the trial progresses, the attorneys will probably make objections to questions asked by the other attorney of witnesses, or objections to the introduction of documents or objects. This means that in the objecting attorney's opinion, there is a legal reason why the testimony or document or object should not be received by you. Sometimes I will simply sustain or overrule the objection. At other times, it may require a lengthy discussion outside of your presence. If that happens, I will either ask you to step outside for a few minutes or ask the attorneys to come up to the bench so that you can't hear the discussion on the point of law. The reason for this, as I told you earlier, you are the sole judges of the facts you receive, and I'm the sole judge of the law. I can't be with you in the jury room when you deliberate the facts. Therefore, you can't be present or within hearing when I deliberate questions of law. The reason why I will sometimes ask you to step outside is because it is simply the most efficient way to do it. Otherwise, if we were to leave the courtroom, the court reporter would have to gather her equipment and take it with her, and the attorneys would have to gather their files, etc. The rulings I do make on questions of law in your presence are not evidence, and you are to disregard them. After all the evidence is in, and both the state and the defendant have rested their cases, the court will prepare and submit to you a written charge instructing you on the law in this case. You will then hear oral arguments from the attorneys. The attorneys have the right to make a summation of the evidence and to make reasonable deductions from the evidence. Since the state has the burden of proof, it has the right to open and close the summation or argument until you retire to deliberate. Do not discuss this case amongst yourselves, and under no circumstances should you permit anyone to discuss the case with you. Do not attempt to learn from any source outside of the courtroom anything about the facts of the case, nor attempt any independent investigation on your own. Don't visit the scene involved in the facts of the case. Don't read any reports in the newspaper or watch TV reports about the case. Do not make up your mind about this case until all the evidence is in and you have been instructed on the law. Don't take notes during the progress of the trial. Don't visit other courtrooms during a break if a trial or other proceeding is in progress. The identification badge or tag that you have been given, please wear it at all times, identifying you as a juror. Deputy Monty. those of you who have not been selected to sit on this jury, first of all, I would like to thank you for taking time out from your busy schedules to come here this afternoon. Our jury system cannot function, or actually our justice system cannot function without people like you. It's people like you who take time out from your busy schedules to come to court to make sure that justice is done. If we didn't have individuals to come to court to make sure that justice is done, then our criminal justice system would bog down. We would not be able to move any cases because individuals in this country have a constitutional right to have a trial by jury. And if they exercise that right, that is, they choose to have a trial by jury, we cannot have a trial if we do not have jurors. So therefore, I'd like to thank you for taking time out from your busy schedules to come here today to serve as jurors in this case. Now, the other thing that I need to mention to you is that in County Court at Law number 2, we handle misdemeanor cases. We handle Class A and Class B misdemeanor cases. Now, I know that when you got your summons to come to court, and when you came to court today, you probably was on the outside and you looked up above the door and you saw the name of Terrence Holmes, Judge Terrence Holmes, and you said, oh, I'm in the right place. This is Judge Holmes' court. No, this is not Judge Holmes' court. This is your court. I'm only a public servant serving the citizens of Jefferson County. So anytime that you're in the area, please feel free to come and have a seat in your courtroom. You can have a seat in the area that you're sitting in. We call that the peanut gallery, but it does not mean you can bring peanuts in here and eat, because this is not the Texas Roadhouse. Now, our bailiff have some letters for you. If you want to sit around and watch the jury and watch the trial, you can. If you don't have the time to watch it in person, you can watch it on YouTube, because we have a YouTube channel for County Court at Law number 2 in Jefferson County. So at this time, ladies and gentlemen, before you leave, I usually give everyone a handshake, but under our current conditions, we still have COVID in our communities. I will give everyone an air handshake. Okay. All right. Now, our bailiff have letters for you. As you exit in the courtroom, the bailiff will give you a letter. Again, I'd like to thank you for coming out to County Court at Law number 2 to make sure that justice is served. Everyone, please have a blessed day, and you are excused. State, are you ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
Defense, are you ready?
Ready.
Okay, Mr. Hubel, would you like to present the information? And Ms. Barton, would you please stand? You may proceed.
In the name of the authority of the state of Texas, comes now the undersigned Assistant District Attorney of Jefferson County, Texas, on behalf of the state of Texas, and presents and to the County Court at Law of Jefferson County, Texas, that in Jefferson County, Texas, Kimberly Michelle Barton, hereafter styled defendant, heretofore on or about June 22nd, 2020, did then and there unlawfully appropriate property by acquiring and exercising control of corporeal personal property, namely coolers, owned by Charles Golden, hereafter styled the complainant, of the value of at least $100, but less than $750, with the intent to deprive the complainant of the property and without effective consent of the complainant against the peace and dignity of the state.
Ms. Barton, how do you plead?
Not guilty.
Okay, you may have your seat. At this time, State, would you like to make an opening statement?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you may proceed, Mr. Hubel.
Thank you all for coming out today. I appreciate y'all's service. This is a very simple case. It's a theft that took place at Academy in Port Arthur, location on Memorial Boulevard. This theft in particular took place on June 19th. The defendant in this case, Kimberly Martin, the evidence will show, walked into the Academy Sports and Outdoors, and took two Yeti coolers from the display near the front entrance. This incident was captured on video. And we also will be calling two store employees. One that worked there at that time, and the other who's a current manager at the store. And we will also be hearing from the officer that responded to this. And all that will show that Kimberly Barton committed the offensive that Class B on that day. I look forward to presenting this case to you all. Thank you.
Mr. Kimberly, would you like to have an open statement, or would you like to reserve your right?
Reserve.
Okay. Mr. Hubel, would you like to call your first witness?
Yes, Your Honor. State called Jennifer Quick.
Jennifer Quick?
Get her in normal with the shirt.
Okay. Ms. Quick, would you please come forward? Stand in front of the bench. Ms. Quick, would you please raise your right hand? Ms. Quick, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Sir, I do.
You may put your hand down, Ms. Quick. Ms. Quick, you can take the witness stand.
Yes, Ms. Quick. Would you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Yes, I am Jennifer Quick.
And how are you employed?
I am employed by Academy Sports and Outdoors and we're sort of rep.
And how long have you been with Academy?
I've been with Academy for 3 years.
And were you always the store director?
No, sir.
Were you the store, were you working at the store in June of 2020?
Yes, sir.
And at that point, do you recall what position you held?
I was a logistics manager.
Were you, at that time, were you aware, of the fact that your store had, a security system?
Yes, sir.
And may I approach you on?
Yes, you may.
What I am handing you right now is marked State Exhibit 1. Do you recognize it?
Yes,
Have you had the opportunity to view the contents of State Exhibit number 1?
yes,
Can you tell me what it is?
yes, it is. It contains the images of Ms. Kimberly Barton.
Objection, non-responsive, self-conclusive. Preclusory, he simply has to identify what it is, testimony.
Okay, objection sustained.
Can you just explain what, not necessarily what's depicted, but what the nature of the contents is?
Yes, it's a video of that.
And this surveillance video captures events that took place on at your store.
Yes,
And do you recall the date in which this, on which the date in which the footage captured on this tape was, captured.
Yes,
But you have had the, ability to view this tape, and it does fairly and accurately, reflect, what you've previously seen. And at this point, state would offer state's exhibit 1 into evidence.
Any objections?
Probably if not what I,
Yes. Okay, you can take on part of that.
ma'am, you've actually viewed, this, what's the picture, this particular
yes,
report. You've looked at this one,
sir.
you looked at this one,
Yes, the flash drive.
this flash drive,
Yes, sir.
right? Is
Yes,
that
sir.
provided by your office to the DA's office, or is it that their flash drive, or where this?
We do not provide the flash drives.
Okay, but at some point you sat down and plugged this flash drive into a viewing station and viewed it, right?
Yes, sir.
Does it fairly accurately depict what you viewed? Does that fairly accurately depict what occurred in the store on or about June 20th of, or June 19th of 2020?
Yes, sir.
Events that occurred in the
Yes, sir.
store? No, okay.
Okay, no objection, states exhibit number, you offering states exhibit number 1? Is that correct? No objection, states exhibit number 1 will be admitted.
So, you're saying that you were employed by Academy. Can you tell me what location that is?
Yes, sir. It's Port Arthur, Texas, 8453 from where I will apply.
Okay, and that is in Jefferson County?
Yes.
At this point, judge permission to publish state's exhibit number 1?
Yes.
Yes.
And just to clarify, I asked if your location was in Jefferson County, but specifically Jefferson County, Texas.
Yes, sir.
And I believe Mr. Kimber was asking if the events took place on or about June 16th, 2020, or June 19th, rather. Did you respond yes to that question?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now on these, on the screens in the courtroom, we're displaying the conference of states exhibit number 1. Do you recognize what's shown on the screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, can you tell me where that is?
That is at the front of my store.
There's also,
Behind this,
Oh.
you need a point to.
okay. There's also, an individual who appears to be coming through the entrance, at this point, also in the video. Do you recognize that individual?
Yes, sir.
And do you know the identity of that individual?
Yes, sir.
Would you say the individual's name?
It's, Miss Kimberly Martin.
And is that individual in the courtroom with us at this moment?
Yes, sir.
Would you be able to identify her by an article over there? In the courtroom today?
By an article for clothing.
Yes, by something that she's wearing right now. And the bailiff's about to grab lights. And what I mean by that is, if you see her in the courtroom, can you tell me something that she is currently wearing, just so that we can properly identify her?
Oh, yes, sir. She has a blue polo on.
But the record, will the record, reflect that the witness has identified the defendant?
The record will so reflect.
Now, we can continue on with the video. So in the upper left corner of what's shown on the screen right now, do you recognize that display?
Yes, sir.
And what is held there?
The Yeti coolers.
You know what the value of the coolers were on that date?
Yes, sir. They were $300.
And do you see an individual that is near the display right now?
Yes, sir.
Can you identify that individual?
Not in that freeze frame.
Continue the video. Now, When viewing the video, did you see the individual indicated earlier do something?
Yes, sir.
And, what was that?
There were two Yeti coolers pulled off of the wall.
Can you continue? Okay, if you could go back slightly. Just slightly.
Even more.
No, go forward just a bit. Okay. And are those the two same coolers that were just pulled off the display?
Yes, sir, they are.
And from this perspective, can you identify the individual holding them?
Yes, sir.
And who would that be?
Miss Kimberly Martin.
Um, and it appears that she is attempting to, what does it appear that she's attempting to do?
She avoided point of checkout and is heading for the exit of the building.
So it appears that she did not have an intent to pay for the objects that she was holding at that point.
Yes, sir.
And this may seem like a silly question, but no one gave her consent to take those objects without paying, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And continue the video. Just for the record, the first video of the store entrance concluded with the individual that you identified as Ms. Spartan leaving the store with the two coolers without paying, correct?
Yes, sir.
We could get
Next video.
the lowest one. It's the one above it. No, a bit too high. The one with the photos. One more. No, no. Oh, it's over. It's below there. No. Yeah, you need to go down. Okay, that's the menu you need, but you can't get over the menu. No, that's not correct. Can I handle this?
Yeah.
Yeah. You can just record. It should still be, it should still be. Sorry about that, technical difficulties. So. Looking at the, portion of State's Exhibit number 1 that is labeled, store exit, what is the, what area is displayed?
That is our exit door.
And is this just a different perspective of what was seen from store entrance?
Yes, sir.
Now, you can pause it as she's like walking towards the door. Okay, do you see the individual that you previously identified as Kimberly Barton?
Yes, sir.
And she's carrying 2 coolers,
Yes, sir.
the 2 coolers that she previously taken from the displays.
Yes, sir.
And can you tell from this freeze frame of the video what color they were? It's kind of hard to tell with a little light. It's okay.
They were great.
It's a. Okay. Okay. And there's one more video to show, which is the top one. And, what area does this video depict?
This is the parking lot.
And for the record, we are looking at what's marked as parking lot exit in State's Exhibit 1. So again, it appears that we see the individual previously identified as Kimberly Barton carrying out the coolers that were also previously identified and valued by you. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So in this video, what does Ms. Barton appear to be doing?
She is going to a vehicle.
Okay. Do you recall if she was followed in the parking lot by staff at all on this occasion?
No, sir.
Okay. If you could continue the video. So in the top left, we in the top left, we just saw a vehicle leave the parking lot. Was that the vehicle that Ms. Barton used?
That's the best of my knowledge.
Okay. And did Ms. Barton ultimately get away with the stolen coolers in this case?
Yes, sir.
Now, you were previously, able to, identify Ms. Barton because you're aware of her, correct?
Objection, Your Honor. Ms. Rollins.
Well, me approach this.
Hold on a minute. Let the record reflect that the court is back in session. Let the record reflect that the defendant, Ms. Kimberly Barton, is present with her attorney, Attorney Wright Kimler. State is present with Assistant District Attorney, Attorney Andrew Hubel, and Assistant Colby Hallprior. Let the record also reflect that the jury is now present in the courtroom. Mr. Hubel, are you ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may proceed.
So just to reiterate, as we discussed previously, the items that you saw Ms. Barton take out of the store were valued at $300 each,
Yes, sir, that's correct.
meaning that the two she stole would total to $600.
Yes, sir.
And this all took place at your store in Jefferson County, Texas, on June 19th, 2020.
Yes, sir.
So, and just as, this is one last question, are you familiar with Charles Olden?
Yes, sir.
Did he work at the store at this time,
Yes, sir.
at the time depicted in the video? Do you recall what the reason?
He was the operations manager.
And when she took those photos, going back to Ms. Barton, she did so without paying,
Yes,
Right.
sir.
without consent of anyone from the store that would have the ability to give that effective consent.
Yes, sir.
And so you would characterize it as her stealing those coolers.
Yes, sir.
At this point, state passes witness.
Okay, Mr. Kimler?
No questions.
Okay, state, may this witness be excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
Defense? Okay. Ms. Quick, you may be excused,
Thank you.
and you have a blessed day.
You as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, we have other witnesses, but not today. So we have to take what you want, take it to tomorrow.
Okay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, let me see. I need to, hold on a minute. Mr. Monty? Well, never mind, I have it right here. I need to take a, I just needed to take a look at the, okay. So I'm just thinking we may have to meet Mr. Skimler. Ms. Quick, you've been sworn in. Please have a seat in the jury, in the witness stand.
Afternoon, Mr. Quick. What day are we talking about here? June 19th of 2020?
Yes, sir.
Not the 20th or the 18th, but the 19th, right?
Yes, sir.
And were you working that day? Or were you at the store?
I was at the store.
What time period? Or were you at the store at the time period when this theft occurred?
I don't recall.
All right, would you know what time the events depicted on State's Exhibit 1 occurred? Was it 9 in the morning or 10 in the morning or 3 in the afternoon, or about what time?
It was in the afternoon.
So you don't recall viewing these events as they occurred, is that right? You weren't a witness, you weren't an eyewitness, is that
No,
right?
sir.
You don't even know if you were at the store when the events depicted in State's 1 or occurred, is that right?
I don't recall.
So we say you're not an eyewitness, right? You didn't see the person depicted in Stage 1 walk into the store, is that right?
Not on that instance.
I'm sorry?
Not on that instance.
Did you see them walk in the store on January 19th in the afternoon, the person depicted on State's Exhibit?
No, sir.
Did you see that?
No, sir.
You're not an eyewitness, right?
No, sir.
You didn't see the person depicted in State's Exhibit 1 on June 19th in the afternoon, pick up these 2 coolers and walk out of the store, is that right?
Yes, sir.
You didn't see any of the events depicted in State's Exhibit 1 personally, right?
That is correct.
Your identification of the individual depicted in State's Exhibit 1 as Kimberly Barton isn't based upon a photo identity spread that was offered to you by the police?
No, sir.
It's not based on your eyewitness viewing of the person going into the store, is that right? Is that right?
I have seen her.
That's not my question. Is your identification of the person as Kimberly Barton depicted in State's Exhibit 1 based upon your observations of the individual that entered the store on June 19th?
No, sir.
Would you agree with me that your identification of the person depicted in State's Exhibit 1 is based upon you viewing the video, is that right? You viewed the video and said, oh, that's Kimberly Barton, is that right?
Yes, sir.
So there has to be something on the video distinctive about that person that would enable you to say that they're Ms. Barton, is that right?
Yes, sir.
What is it about State's Exhibit 1 that allows you or to say that the person depicted in State's Exhibit 1 is Ms. Barton? What is it that is specifically depicted on State's Exhibit 1 that allows you to make the identification that it's Ms. Barton?
From previous encounters.
I'm asking you, what is it about State's Exhibit 1 that you're able to say that person's Kimberly Barton? Is it the way that they're walking? Is it the way that they're attired? Is it their viewable tattoos? What is it? What is it about State's Exhibit 1 that allows you to make that assertion that it's
She has a distinguished walk,
so it's the walk,
and she has some distinguished
tattoos,
and she had been in the store in the same exact attire.
so you recognize the attire, the clothing from a previous occasion, is that right?
Yes, sir.
How would you describe the attire?
The ripped up jeans and the t-shirt.
What about tattoos? What tattoos that are depicted on the individual in State's Exhibit 1 allow you to say that that's Ms. Barton?
The tattoos on the neck
What else?
and the teardrop on the face.
And that teardrop on the face is depicted in State's Exhibit 1? You can see that?
Well, in some views, you can zoom in on our cameras.
Okay, did you have any of those zoom in photos that were provided to the state that would be available for the jury to view?
No,
Of
sir.
that kind of detail in the person's face?
Yes.
Do you have those available?
Mm. I can check with my loss prevention.
Is there any reason those would have been provided to the state if you have a photo of that type of detail that would allow you to see a teardrop tattoo on somebody's face, that would have been provided to the state?
I can partner with my loss prevention
I'm
department.
asking, is there any reason that wouldn't have already been done?
not to my knowledge.
So it should have already been done, is that right?
Sir.
Yeah, approach.
Yes,
Would you, showing you what's been marked as defense exhibits 1 and 2. Would you agree with me that these appear to be, or to fairly accurately depict, enhanced or blown up photos, still pictures of State's Exhibit 1?
Yes, sir.
I asked, well, Mr. Hubel. You should have. You can take on.
so Mr. Hubie, you'd like to take the witness on board there?
Briefly.
Okay, you may proceed.
No, you had just identified these, images for, Mr. Kimmer, correct?
Yes, sir.
Are these types of images that your, security software would produce?
If they're blown up and distorted.
So, so someone else independently would have to produce these images.
Yes, sir.
And this was not done by, you or store staff.
John, I'll stipulate that the store didn't produce those enhanced photos. Those weren't obtained, the enhanced were not obtained in that form from the state as part of discovery. They were enhanced by the defense, enhanced by our efforts.
Okay.
They weren't performed, but provided in that form by the state.
Okay,
Those were enhanced by materials the state provided.
okay.
State's Exhibit 1.
And, briefly, if these weren't produced by, or is stipulated by defense counsel, these could be produced by another program, is that possible? Because they weren't your program. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So anybody who took video could create, if they took another program, if you know or if you don't know, take a program and make images pulled from this camera, but we don't know what program that was because it wasn't an academy surveillance program. Is that right?
That's correct.
So what's depicted by this image is just what the defense counsel is telling you, what program they use. You don't know what program that is that right?
Object, Your Honor. That's not part of the identification process for photographs. I asked if they fairly and accurately depicted enhanced still photographs from the person depicted in the state's one. She answered affirmatively, which I think is sufficient to authenticate the photographs for purposes of.
Now, for purposes of what I want to make sure that I'm clear that it's just not that long question with counsel, just said, but a question particularly about these photographs, make sure she understands what she's saying.
I think she answered the question that they fairly and accurately depict what was depicted in the state's Exhibit 1, which is all that's necessary to authenticate the purposes of the mission. She answered the question that they did.
I would object to the authentication, Your Honor, because you can't authenticate where it came from. I know that's not the standard. I understand that's not the standard, but what I'm saying is that I'm allowed to, on what I ask the questions, the possibility that it is not from.
I think what Mr. Hoffpower is saying is he could obviously undercut the credibility of the photos, which goes to the weight, not the admissibility, which is, he's free to do that, but it doesn't go to the visibility, it goes to the weight, which he's free to pursue. Not the admissibility.
I understand, Jay, but I'm not gonna concede that argument with council with, as whether or not the admissibility, because I think I can ask questions on as to whether or not she could fairly and accurately, if she knew where it
Okay.
was. If I could proceed.
You may proceed.
Okay. These weren't, first, just clearly, these weren't produced by Academy. You didn't give this to the state. Is that right? Photographs in this matter.
All we do is send the
So like
videos
this thing.
over.
So like screenshot of this with the, it wasn't done by an Academy program, meaning that this does not, you're saying that came from our camera, I know, because I recognize the pictures. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
That's correct. So if another program did it, whatever it did with it, a screenshot, we don't know what that was, but you're just saying that it wasn't the Academy.
Objection, Lee.
It wasn't the Academy program.
Objection, Lee.
No, objection overruled.
It wasn't the Academy program that produced these particular images.
No, sir, it's just the front of the store.
Okay. So, and if we went through the video, we could show what allegedly these pictures show on this Academy photo screen. I mean, in the surveillance video. I mean, we can pull it up here, but it's not close up. Right? Okay. So if it's done by another program, what else could be done with it? Do you know?
You know, I think this goes beyond the purpose of the board hire of the witness. I think we have established that she stated it clearly and accurately depict what they purport to depict. And that's sufficient for identification. We're going to field here to cross-examination, or I guess redirect examination as far as the photos go, which
We'll do it.
they have no power. Of course, they're free to do that, just not
Right.
during cross.
We'll at this time, we'll visit that on our redirect, but that's okay. We're gonna stop as we'll take it off board our.
So I guess the question is,
We objected.
you object to these
We object to.
Okay.
notification.
defense?
I think that they've been authenticated. It's a pretty bare standard. For
Did she state that
that they fairly and accurately depict? what
that
they
was
purport?
stated?
Yes.
I would argue that wasn't.
Okay, well, let's look at the record.
Board our,
Could you go back in the record and see? It should be. I just question.
Let's just.
you're still on.
Sorry, it's free format.
He did ask, would you agree with me that these appear to be to fairly and accurately depict enhanced or blown up photos, still pictures of State's Exhibit 1? She said, yes, sir.
Okay. You're, it's gonna be admitted.
Sure.
State's exhibit, is that State's Exhibit 1?
I'll say,
One, two.
Defense, okay, Defense Exhibit 1.
Let me ask you this, ma'am, format procedure.
Yes,
Did the enhanced still photographs that you mentioned that are part of the file back at the store that your loss prevention people had, did you review those in preparation for your testimony today and making this in-court identification?
No, sir.
The up close where you mentioned the tear tattoo?
No, sir.
You've never reviewed any type of photograph that depicts that in reference to your in-court identification, Ms. Martin, is that right?
I'm not understanding.
Okay, you testified that you believe there be to be extent still photographs that are enhanced of the person's face from State's Exhibit 1 that depict a teardrop tattoo on the face, is that right?
Yes, sir.
That photo is extant, it exists.
Yes, sir.
But you've never viewed that photograph.
Yes, I have.
You viewed that photograph,
Yes, sir.
right? So it forms a part of the basis of your in-court identification of Ms. Martin, is that right?
Yes, sir.
So where is it? If you're using that as a predicate for your identification of her in court, you've reviewed it, you've looked at it, you can say definitively that enhanced facial photograph matches Ms. Martin. Where is that photograph?
I can definitely partner with my loss prevention department.
See if you have it. All right, would you do that? Let's see if you can get it.
Yes,
All right, may I approach you?
Yes,
All right, concerning what's been previously marked and now admitted into evidence, defense exhibits 1 and 2, you've identified these as enhanced photos from states 1 of the individual that entered the store and illegally appropriated those 2 coolers. Is that right?
yes, sir.
All right. You see any tattoos on the neck area? I guess that would be the right area of the neck. On these 2 or not? I'm just,
No,
what's your opinion?
They're too distorted.
You can't tell? So you're not able to say there's no tattoos or there is a tattoo, it's just too distorted to say one way or the other, or they're just not appear to be a tattoo on that side. Which is it?
It's too
Too
distorted.
distorted, all right. Okay. Person wasn't apprehended, right?
No, sir.
They've been apprehended, it wouldn't be any question of identification because we know, right? Person would have been apprehended.
Yes, sir.
The coolers themselves, specifies the value of the coolers as being $300 each, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Is that wholesale or retail?
That's reasonable.
What's the wholesale then?
I don't know.
Would it be more than 100?
Yes, sir.
Together or individually?
Individual.
So somewhere more than 100, but less than 300 wholesale?
Usually about a 30% markup on.
So what would that make? Let's see, what's 30% of 150 would be what, $50, so maybe $100 each, or I'm sorry, $200 each.
Yes, sir.
So the total
Fair
is
estimate.
around 400 wholesale. Pretty expensive coolers. What's so special about these coolers?
They're Yeti coolers.
I
I don't make Yeti coolers, so
don't
the
understand.
technology behind the Yeti is what makes them.
I mean, I would just use igloo cooler. I don't know, I don't spend $200, $300 on cooler, anyway. So the valuation, you're certain, at least wholesale, is approximately $400 for both of these, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Which is between $100 and $600 for a class B misdemeanor. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Passwords.
Mr. Hoover,
Yeah, we have one.
you need to approach the bench?
Yeah, we need to-
Okay, hold on a minute, hold on a minute,
Keep them in there. I don't want
hold on a minute. Mr. Hoover, you may proceed.
Um, Firstly, Mr. Gimler was talking to you about you not personally observing the events from State's Exhibit 1 that took place on June 19th of 2020. You were later able to review that video, correct?
Yes, sir.
And it was not altered, it was just you were viewing it as you looked through from your through your surveillance system.
Yes, sir.
Now, moving on to the identity question. This Mr. Kimler, question your ability to identify the defendant in this case. And yes, what the identification is based on. Now, I'm going to ask you the same question. How do you know Miss Barton? How do you know that that is Miss Barton in that video?
From several instances of her being in the store.
So you have personal experience with Miss Barton,
Yes, sir.
and these experiences have been, how do you characterize them?
How I characterize it,
Yes, ma'am.
every instance was affected.
So, just based on her being in the store and conducting those acts several times, you have been able to, identify her just because you've seen her that many times.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And how long has that been going on?
I came to the Proctor store in 2018, and it was previous to that. There were some trespass
Okay,
before us.
so this has been going on for a period of several years.
I would admit to the extent that it's not responsive, and that if it's prior to her getting there, they couldn't form the necessary predicate for her for the identification. Reported admissibility of the state to establish that in.
Yes.
Accurate and sure.
Objection sustained. Now, jury, you will disregard the comments that have been made by the witness.
Specifically in regards to events before she was at this.
Before she was.
Yes.
Now, looking at the photos that Mr. Kimler was showing you earlier, the ones that appear to show a blown up version of the video that we posted today. So as we discussed earlier, those did not come from you, right? From you, but I mean, from your store surveillance system. And all y'all did at Academy was send the video over to the police department.
Yes, sir.
So for all you know, alterations could have been made. And you're unaware of where the defense got the photographs that he showed you, correct?
That is correct. Yes,
You are not aware of how they were produced,
sir.
and for all we know, those photographs could have been produced in or altered in Photoshop.
Yes, sir.
Um, It's the story that will be the last one. Either one works. So at your store, at the exits, are there any devices in place that, that trigger whenever, an individual attempts to take stolen goods out of the store?
Yes, sir, there's security towers.
Okay, and when an individual does that, how do these, towers react?
The towers blink at the top and make a beeping sound.
Okay, and we're going to, play, from States Exhibit 1, the video that's labeled store exit. Okay, so can you see the store, can you see the towers, or could you see the towers in the video as it was playing, or do you need us to replay it one more time?
If we can replay it. See that, right?
One more time, Kobe?
The tower right here on the top, the lights blinking red.
And that would indicate that
Yeah.
someone has,
It would indicate that there's still a security tag on an item going out the door.
and that would indicate to you as a store employee that someone's attempting to take stolen goods outside the store.
Yes, sir.
And the tower light did in fact blink when the individual identified as Ms. Barton took the coolers outside the store.
Yes,
I have no further questions at this time. Take us to the witness.
Mr. Kimley? Yes.
I don't think it was. You turn it on. All right, you identified previous instances where there may have been, or where there was, what you're alleging that there was activity of Ms. Martin, Lynn Academy that you believe constituted a theft, is that right?
yes, sir.
And were you personally involved in all those instances, or?
No, sir.
Okay, so you have no knowledge of them, only by, no personal knowledge of those?
Just trespasses,
Okay, let me back up. When did you go to work at the academy?
for after in 2018.
Okay, so all of the prior bad acts of Ms. Barton that you asserted occurred after you started working there, right?
Yes, sir.
And that's the ones that we're dealing with, nothing before you started working. Since you started working there, how many bad acts, and I say bad acts, meaning whether trespassing, theft, whatever, that you have personal knowledge of that Ms. Barton is alleged to have committed in the academy since she started working there prior to this incident? Prior
There was
to
one,
June 19th of 2020.
one that,
One,
yes, sir,
okay, I thought you said four or something. It's just one,
just one.
just one. And were you working that day when this one incident is
Yes,
alleged?
sir.
You remember the date,
No, sir.
the month and year maybe, or the
I
year
mean, it was June
of,
20.
okay, so if this offense is alleged to occur June 19th of 2020, it would have been before June 19th of 2020 or after June?
It was after this.
So besides that incident, well, let me ask you this, did that incident, so you're using that incident to identify her now? You're predicating your in-court identification of your interaction on that subsequent incident?
No, sir, I've reviewed plenty of video.
Okay, so you've looked at other video, I guess, in the store,
Yes, sir.
from what time period?
From when I had started working there.
From 2018?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How many separate incidences of video have you reviewed?
3 prior to this.
Prior to June 19th of 2020?
Yes, sir.
And what did those videos depict, in your opinion?
It depicts theft of merchandise leaving the store, passing the point of checkout.
Were charges ever filed?
Reports were made
Reports were made to what? To,
to the police department.
by you?
No, sir,
By whom?
by other managers in the building.
So I'm trying to get a grip on how you're able to make this definitive identification in court. The state's offered or proffered that there's been prior incidents. All right. So these 3 prior incidences that you've referenced, were you involved in reporting those, or what was your involvement in?
I was just reviewing it. We have to review when people, so we know who's coming in and who are doing these things, especially if we have repetitive thefts.
All right, so you viewed 3 instances at the time it occurred, or at the time of this June 19th of 2020?
Prior to this incident. We keep a record of them. Our loss prevention takes pictures and sends them out to us for us to review.
On any of those 3 incidences, was Miss Barton detained and identified, or not?
No, sir, not to my knowledge.
Well, who would have that knowledge? Loss prevention person?
Yes, sir.
So you don't know on the 3 prior instances who were depicted on the videos? If they weren't detained? How are you making that assertion that the people depicted on these prior videos, these 3 prior videos of bad acts of theft for Ms. Barton, how are you making that identification?
It's behavior.
How did you attach a name to the person depicted in those videos?
We already had a name to a case file
How?
and a picture. My loss prevention does that.
Okay, how did they attach the name to those? Because we can agree on none of these 3 prior occasions was a person detained, right? They weren't arrested, they weren't detained, correct?
Right.
So they weren't identified definitively in the store, correct?
Correct.
So how was a name attached to those 3 prior identifications that you've reviewed now as allegedly being Kimberly Barton that are forming the predicate of your ability to identify her in court today?
We have a loss prevention folder with all the incidents in it.
Okay, but how do you attach a name to those instances? Number one?
When the no trespasses are administered, they give us the name of the person.
Well, then somebody would have to be detained to be given a no trespassing, right? A trespassing. warrant,
Right, that was done before I got there.
Okay. Who told you that that was Kimberly Barton in those pictures, those 3 prior videos? Who told you that?
The store team
Who?
that was there, the management team that was there when I got there.
Somebody told you that, right?
Yes, sir.
That's Kimberly Barton in those
Yes,
pictures,
sir.
right? So you got in your mind a name associated with those images, correct?
Yes, sir.
And now you view the image in State's Exhibit 1, right? And that person looks similar to the person in the 3 prior incidents that you reviewed, is that right?
Yes, sir.
That you've been told by somebody else is Kimberly Barton?
Yes, sir.
And that's how you're saying it's Kimberly Barton. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Are you also able to compare the way this person looks in court to the video, the State's Exhibit 1, independently of what you were ever told or seen, just in court, looking at Stage 1? And the person sitting here and say, yeah, the person depicted in Stage 1 is the person sitting here.
Yes, sir. For the incident I had, that I was physically there, absolutely.
That's what I mean. How are you able to say, separate and apart, whatever you were told, whatever previously that you did, just sitting in court, saying the person depicted in Stage 1 is this person? How are you able to say that? What are the identifying characteristics of the person sitting here with the person depicted in Stage 1 that would allow you to make that identification?
The tattoos.
That is,
Yes, sir.
specifically which one?
The things.
Facial tattoos.
Yes, sir.
So you would have to be able to see the tattoos on State's Exhibit 1 to make that identification, right?
Yes, sir. I had an incident with her the next day and I was there and the police were called.
Okay, with Miss Barton, and you were able to say it was Miss.
Yes, sir.
But if you're saying in court, like in court today, the way you're able to say this person is a person depicted in states one of the facial tattoos.
Yes, sir.
And so it's your testimony of looking at stage one, you can identify facial tattoos. The video that we've seen states, you can identify facial tattoos from that video.
Not maybe, when we play it on our screens at the store,
Right.
it's a little bit clearer and we can zoom in a little more and it doesn't distort quite as bad.
So you have better evidence at the store that you've reviewed than what's on stage one. Well, the jury, you understand, the jury doesn't have that, right?
But you're asking how did I?
Yeah, you. But maybe they are, I don't know, maybe they will tomorrow, I don't know what the stage proof's gonna be, but at this point, they don't have what you've indicated as some sort of enhanced recording of the instance on June 19th that would allow you to say the person depicted in the recording has facial tattoos. The person sitting in court has the same facial tattoos, ergo it's the same person, right? We don't have that today.
Right. You asked how did I?
That's what.
Mr. Hill,
Yes, sir. So you have personally observed Kimberly Barton at your store, correct?
Yes, sir.
And just to be clear, whenever you were describing how you recognized Ms. Barton in State Exhibit 1, earlier you also noted her clothing, correct?
Yes, sir.
So you recognize the clothing that she was wearing that day.
Yes, sir.
You had you previously seen her those clothes, wearing those clothes?
It was the next day when she came in.
Okay. So do you have personally observed Ms. Barton wearing those same clothes that she is depicted, that she is captured in State's Exhibit 1 wearing?
Yes, sir.
And also, you're talking about prior incidents having names tagged to them, or right, at your store,
Yes, sir.
and the prior incidences that we were talking about that are pertinent to this case were tied to Ms. Barton, correct?
Yes, sir.
Additionally, as you were saying, you review a lot, you review a decent amount of video, right?
Yes, sir.
And in your role as a manager. So just based on the amount of video that you view and the clarity that you have on your own surveillance system, you'd be able to identify Ms. Barton,
Yes, sir.
even though you personally did not observe the events that happened on June 19th. You were still confident in saying that that is Ms. Barton in State Exhibit 1.
Yes, sir.
No further questions.
No further this time.
okay. Mr. Hill will make his witness be excused.
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Kimler,
I would really like her available for recall. I understand she has to be somewhere tomorrow. I don't know.
I have ATF training in Houston tomorrow, so I cannot come back.
in a corporate, but Judge, I have a contact information.
Okay,
So
I anticipate
the
recall.
next day, I do have her contact information, but tomorrow she is in.
oh, okay.
Okay.
Okay, Ms. Quick, you're free to go and you have a blessed day and stay in contact with the district attorney's office.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
You have a blessed day. You may be seated.
Next time, Judge, we ask to take a recess until tomorrow afternoon. We have 2 more witnesses that we anticipate, and we'll do that at that time.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the court will be in recess until 1:30 tomorrow afternoon. And when you arrive to the court, make sure you remain outside until the bailiff comes to get you. We have a busy docket on tomorrow. Sometimes our dockets end before 12, sometimes they go beyond 12. So, but in any event, just please wait for the bailiff, and the bailiff will come to get you and bring you back in the court when we're ready to resume on tomorrow. And make sure that you have your badges on. And at this time, we're in recess. Everyone, please stand as the jury leave the courtroom. Everyone have a blessed day.
One thirty tomorrow.
1:30.
Back.
Going to be in recess till 1:30 tomorrow.
Thank you.